Welcome to the Explainer. I am incredibly excited today because we're going to unpack a massive, hidden mystery buried deep within the supply chain of the AI buildup. We hear so much about GPUs, raw compute power, and these massive data centers, but there's actually a microscopic bottleneck quietly dictating the entire future of artificial intelligence. Today, we're going to look at the exact companies involved, the billions of dollars flowing through this sector, and the sheer, inescapable physics of why this problem is just so incredibly difficult to solve.
To really grasp the high stakes here, consider what Marvell Technologies stated back in December 2025. They said, as bandwidth and reach continue to increase, every connection point in the data center must move from copper to optical. Now, they aren't just making some casual prediction here. They're pointing to a fundamental breakdown in how AI training clusters physically communicate with each other. We are literally talking about thousands of GPUs needing to continuously exchange data at terabit scale for weeks on end. And the old ways of doing that, they simply do not work anymore.
To show you just how critical this bottleneck is right now, let's hook right into some recent news. You might have seen that Elon Musk recently got FTC clearance to acquire Mesh Optical Technologies. Most of the financial press treated this as just a quirky footnote. Some former Starlink engineers built a startup, and Musk bought it back. But honestly, that is the wrong frame entirely. He is acquiring a specific, highly coveted component that everyone is quietly fighting over to power next-generation clusters, like xAI's Colossus. So what exactly is he trying to control? Well, to solve this mystery, we first need to zoom out and look at the macro problem with current AI infrastructure.
Section 1. Why copper is losing.
The root of the issue lies in a sheer physical contrast. Copper interconnects are essentially facing hostile physics. Copper degrades high-frequency signals, it burns a disproportionate amount of power, and its reach is severely limited. I absolutely love this analogy. It's like trying to drain a swimming pool using a garden hose. It perfectly illustrates why copper is completely failing modern GPU clusters. You just can't drain a pool in 30 seconds with a garden hose. On the flip side, optical interconnects replace that copper with light. Photons simply don't care about electromagnetic interference, they use a fraction of the power per bit, and their reach is extreme.
That necessary physical transition has created a truly staggering financial reality: $41.4 billion. That massive number represents the forecasted total optical interconnect market by 2030, driven entirely by this furious transition away from copper. The shift is happening across pluggable modules and emerging co-packaged optics, and the world's largest tech companies are spending aggressively right now just to make sure their infrastructure isn't left in the dark.
Section 2. The laser bottleneck.
So, to find the exact component bottlenecking this $40 billion transition, we've got to zoom all the way into the microscopic level. The crucial point here is understanding how optical chips actually work. Think of silicon photonics as the highway. Silicon is abundant, it's cheap, and it routes light beautifully. But there is a massive catch. Silicon cannot generate light. It doesn't laze. And a highway is completely useless at night if you don't have headlights, right? That brings us to the IIV compound semiconductors. These are the headlights. They generate perfect, stable light. But they require completely different, highly specialized fabrication plants to manufacture. You literally cannot just spin these up in a standard silicon foundry.
And that specific headlight actually has a name: the Continuous Wave Distributed Feedback Laser, or CW-DFB laser. I know, it sounds like some intense jargon, but demystifying this is absolutely crucial because this exact laser, which is made from a compound called indium phosphide, is the non-negotiable starting point for every single optical architecture. Whether a company is building standard pluggable transceivers or exotic co-packaged optics, if you don't have a qualified laser at the exact right wavelength, power level, and form factor, absolutely nothing ships.
But why exactly is this the choke point? Well, manufacturing these lasers is not like pumping out standard silicon chips. It is a grueling, capacity-constrained nightmare. The highly specialized MOCVD and MBE reactors needed to make them take 18 to 36 months just to procure and install. On top of that, the laser arrays require sub-nanometer precision. And think about the environment they live in. They have to survive sitting right next to a GPU that's pumping out over 700 watts of heat. That's an environment that would make most optical components literally melt. Finally, bonding these tiny lasers to the silicon photonics introduces massive yield challenges. Because of all this, only 3 to 5 companies globally can actually produce these at meaningful volumes. This manufacturing nightmare builds into an incredible economic moat. Once you finally manage to manufacture the laser, getting it designed into a product takes forever. From the initial design-in at month 0 to the very first meaningful volume shipment, you're looking at a brutal 18 to 24-month qualification cycle. The entire optical integration process is tuned to the exact spectral characteristics of that specific laser. If a customer decides they want to switch laser suppliers, they essentially have to start this highly expensive 2-year process all over again. That creates an extreme switching cost.
Section 3. The power of stickiness.
That 24-month stickiness, that's the key to understanding the billions of dollars changing hands right now. Those microscopic delays directly orchestrate the exact M&A playbook unfolding across the AI sector today. Here's how it goes. Step 1. An optically native startup forms and partners with one of these rare merchant laser suppliers. Step 2. They build a prototype and secure validation from a major hyperscaler. Step 3. A tech giant realizes they need this exact tech right now, so they acquire the startup for billions of dollars. And Step 4. The original laser supplier gets pulled directly into hyperscale volume production. This is the precise playbook we saw when Marvell bought Celestial AI for up to $5.5 billion, and it's exactly what we just saw with Elon Musk buying Mesh Optical.
Section 4. 2 players profiting. So if that's the established playbook, who is positioned to print money as this massive volume ramp hits? This 7 powers breakdown perfectly contrasts our 2 key players, Sivers Semiconductors and Applied Optoelectronics, or AAOI. Sivers is the startup-friendly merchant supplier. They're highly counter-positioned to work hand-in-hand with small startups early in the design phase. AAOI, on the other hand, is a vertically integrated U.S. champion. They make their own lasers and the final transceiver modules completely in-house. But notice what they both share: incredibly strong switching costs and a cornered resource in their extremely rare indium phosphide expertise.
Let's look closely at Sivers first. Their trajectory really tells the whole story here. They had roughly $3 million in 2025 annual photonics revenue. But look at their opportunity pipeline for just the first quarter of 2026, $799 million. The staggering contrast between their current tiny revenue and that explosive opportunity pipeline shows a company right on the edge of a massive inflection point. They are the ones getting designed into all these startup architectures right now, just waiting for the volume to ramp. And when that volume finally hits, it is highly lucrative. 60%, that is Sivers' estimated gross margin on its laser products. Remember, this isn't some commoditized silicone chip. This is a highly precision photonic device. This number really highlights the immense pricing power you have when you're a rare, fully qualified supplier in a market that is absolutely desperate for your exact component. Now compare that to Applied Optoelectronics. They aren't waiting for an inflection point, they're sitting right in the middle of it. Greater than $1.1 billion. That is AAOI's full year 2026 revenue guide. They've already declared an enormous $324 million in specific hyperscaler orders. They are vertically integrated, manufacturing right in Texas, and they're currently scaling faster than almost any optical transceiver company in history just to meet this insatiable AI demand. Of course, as a completely impartial explainer, we have to look at the forward risks to this thesis. Nothing is ever guaranteed. What if monolithic silicon integration, which means growing lasers directly on standard silicon, succeeds earlier than expected? The probability is low, but it's absolutely a risk. What if the industry delays the transition to co-packaged optics? Furthermore, Sivers faces genuine structural dilution risks and is heavily reliant on a successful NASDAQ relisting to access U.S. institutional capital. AAOI faces immense execution pressures to actually deliver on that massive $1.1 billion guide. And broadly speaking, geopolitical tensions with Chinese optical component suppliers continue to heavily impact how U.S. hyperscalers procure these parts, acting as a very dynamic force on the entire global supply chain.
But even with those risks in mind, the fundamental physics of the data center remain completely unchanged. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought that perfectly summarizes why this hidden choke point is arguably the most fascinating story in AI today. The laser is the NVIDIA of the photons-only part of AI. It is the inescapable bottleneck